I've gone over the villains of The Flash before, but we're not done. This is part 4 of I don't know how many, because the show has a Freak of the Week type structure, meaning there's a lot of villains. The first of whom I want to talk about is Rupture, who is Earth 2's version of Cisco's brother, who I thought was a pretty good villain for a one-off episode. And while the character was only a one-off villain for one episode, I personally kind of liked him. I thought he had a very distinct costume that I think is more or less good enough for a villain who isn't just a one-off villain. So I'm kind of disappointed the character was killed off only after one episode, but I did like how he was going after Cisco, and it kind of brought him and his brother together, and I really like the character overall. I mean, yes, he's not a big, deep villain, but for a one-off villain, he's pretty cool. I talked about the first Cicada and how I really disliked the character. Now it's for Cicada too, who I also really disliked, like even more than him. I thought this version of Cicada was, in my opinion, just straight up awful and didn't make any sense. She was killing metas, but she herself was a meta. It didn't come across as a deep commentary on sometimes you hate yourself and your own people. No, she just came across very bland in how she was killing other metas. It came across very hypocritical. Along with her motivation also not really making any sense, considering the fact that she killed her own uncle, who was practically her father. It made the character come across very just unmotivatable, while also not caring. She just killed metas because she supposedly thought they were the worst things ever, when she herself was one. She blamed them for her parents' death, when she killed practically her father, who, yes, I know was her uncle, but was a father to her, which she admitted. And at the end of the day, personally, the only thing I liked about Cicada was the twist that the reason why Reverse Flash wanted to destroy the dagger was because the dagger was depowering him. That was the only thing about Cicada I liked, and it wasn't even about them themselves, it was about their dagger. And I apologize if you like Cicada. I just really don't. Next is Mist. Personally, I thought Mist was pretty cool. I liked his abilities, and I thought the character having the addition of Vapor was interesting, because the character in the comics doesn't have Vapor Mist, his mist is just regular mist. It made him more deadly and made more sense for him to be a villain. I thought the character overall was pretty interesting in the fact that he was just killing the people who actually wanted him to die himself. And I thought it was also pretty interesting how the way he got his abilities was because he was sentenced to death. And his way to escape death was by practically in a weird way becoming it. It's not really a big whole commentary on death in that matter. But in my opinion, I thought it was an interesting element to incorporate, even if it's not really in your face. The character didn't return after season 1 for some unknown reason. All we know of him is that he just escaped, and for all we know, he's just out there somewhere. Next is another one of Flash's earlier villains, and that is Everyman. Personally, I thought Everyman was pretty cool. He wasn't a great villain, but a pretty interesting one, and he didn't overstay his welcome. When he's killed off, I was okay with that. And for the episode where he actually played a role, I thought he did a pretty good job impersonating different characters, and I like the fact that he wasn't, he wasn't exactly an expert on acting, so he did make some mistakes, even involving using the wrong hand. It was, in my opinion, a nice kind of like element to incorporate the fact that the character wasn't exactly a great actor, and how he used his left hand when the characters were right-handed. Trajectory, in my opinion, was a character that was kind of underused. I would have liked her to have survived her only episode, but for what we got of her, I thought she was pretty interesting. And I like the play on potentially like personality disorder. It wasn't exactly played with that much, but we definitely saw that there was something there that was going on. And I thought it was a nice kind of like cue in for the whole like Caitlyn's storyline to bring in this villain, and to explain why she has metahuman abilities is because of Caitlyn having worked with her. I personally thought it was a nice tie-in to the episode to have Caitlyn involved in the plot while also having the villain introduced in a way that made sense story-wise. And the final villain I want to talk about is Sunshine. Personally, I thought Sunshine was a pretty okay villain. She's not from the comics, which I think kind of made her kind of an odd choice to have her be a recurring villain. However, I did like her abilities and how she teleported, and I like the idea that Barry had to beat her without his abilities, and I like the way he did it. It made her not come across incompetent by losing in the way she did, but also made sense that she, of course, did lose because it's Barry's show. Of course, he's going to win. And I also did like her fight with Killer Frost. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.